Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Technology, a tool for building person-centered care and staff empowerment. On behalf of the team at CFI, we are so pleased to have you with us and be a part of our pre-conference webinar series. So much good education has been coming our way thanks to our annual conference that we just could not wait until August to start sharing it with you. So we're pleased to be able to share it through this format. We do invite you. I know you're all on mute, but a lot of you have discovered the chat already, which is great. So we do encourage you to be involved and engaged with us throughout this webinar. So you can certainly use the chat for comments or questions. You can also go to the Q&A. We will probably hold most of the questions and answers until the end, but we will have time at the end to address those for you. There are CEs available for nursing home administrators, and we will get you the information about that at the end of the webinar. So hold tight for that one. And that being said, I think that's all we have to talk about. So I want to turn this over to Melissa Chavez, who she and John are going to take it from here.
Thanks, Joan. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Chavez, and I'm the Director of North American Operations for Checked-In Care. And I'd like to have the gentlemen introduce themselves for you. John Perkins.
Yes, hello. John Perkins, CEO and founder of Checked-In Care. It's great to be with you this afternoon. Thank you.
Hi, John Bosen, CEO, Advantage Home Care. Nice to meet everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, John. So we call him Aussie John and American John if anybody has any confusion or has a question for Aussie John versus American John. So today we're going to be talking about person-centered care and staff empowerment. What does that mean? Why is it important? And how is our industry leveraging technology to achieve those two goals? And reason that we want to talk about that is there are other countries like Australia, where John Perkins is from, where they've been doing this for a long time, and it's consumer direct care that they've been providing, and they're a little ahead of us in the game. So technology has come out that's helping with that, and we want to talk about that technology. And one of those is Checked-In Care, which was created by our founder and CEO, John Perkins. And he's going to share with you today what Checked-In Care is, why we started Checked-In Care, what the mission that we strive to achieve, and then John's going to do a demo for you on Checked-In Care, but we'll also be opening it up to other technology. If you have any questions about other technology that we've come across that's available, John Bosen, John Perkins, and myself are happy to talk about that throughout this webinar today. And then lastly, we'll leave it open for the questions. If you want to put those in the chat, Joan is kind of handling that for us. And at the end, when John's done with the demonstration, we'll go ahead and ask those questions. This webinar is about 45 minutes, and we'll leave about 15 minutes for questions at the end. So let's talk about what is person-centered care. I know that as I've been traveling to the conferences this year, it's a very hot ticketed item here in the US and in Canada, so in North America. And one of the biggest things is people want to know why is it so important to have person-centered care, but more importantly, how do I get my staff on board with person-centered care? So let me define a little bit about what that is. Person-centered care is minimizing the risk of negative or unfair treatment because they're able to see all of their services, they're able to be involved in those services and have a saying in them. It really puts them at the center of their care, and it also helps them to helps the care provider to understand the whole person. We're not just caring for their ailments, we're caring for them as a person. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What meals do they enjoy? What is it that person wants for themselves? What are their goals to achieve? We don't lose our sense of dignity just because we're older. We should still be able to have an equal say in that. And then as care providers, we should be planning our care plans and making those available based on their needs and their wants. So that kind of leaves me with wanting to ask John Bosen a quick question. How, John, is Advantage Care meeting the growing demand for a more person-centered care in your organization?
Sure. Wow, that's a big one. So it's evolving on an ongoing basis. You know, we provide care to about 5,000 clients throughout Missouri, Illinois, Tennessee, and going into Kansas. That's a lot of homes, a lot of miles, a lot of logistics, and honestly, we try to go out in the community and provide services where these clients live. And for us, the biggest thing, our biggest mission is our mission actually is to allow our clients and care to remain safe, healthy, and independent in the comfort of their own homes. And so obviously, person-centered care is at the core of that, and making sure that our care meets the client in the home, and the services are delivered in a way authorized by the state, but delivered in a way that the client can optimize their care, optimize their independence, is really at the core of all we do. And so in the home care industry specifically, we understand that each person isn't unique. They're more than just a patient. They have wants and desires and needs and goals, routines, preferences that we need to honor. And so we need to try to align with those wants and needs. And unlike a normal service provider like an HVAC guy or any of those, they come in and they service, meet your needs. They tell you when they'll be there. You're at their mercy. And they show up half the time and they don't. The home care industry isn't like that. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I think you understand that for us, it's about going into these communities, serving the client, meeting their needs, and supporting them along their journey. We're not the priority, they are. And really what Checked Into Care does and has allowed us to do is to lean in and meet the client where their needs are.
Thanks, John. Do you find with doing that you've had a lot of staff buy-in on that, or what are some of the things that you've had to do to make sure that your staff is buying into that more person-centered approach?
Sure. So that's a great question too. And that's a challenge, because what I do, I have 150 office employees that oversee the care of 5,000 clients over 50 offices. And so, you spend a lot of time training them and getting them onboarded. But in all honesty, 99% of what I do is one-on-one patient care without a lot of direct supervision. So in all honesty, Checked Into Care has helped us by at least bringing us into the home. Before, we would only engage when the client called, and they would only engage, which was usually not when they were happy. Okay, I think you guys all know that a upset person calls you way more than a happy one. Okay, and if you don't, they do, or so my wife says. But that's a conversation for a different day. I think that what I would say is that it's a very big challenge making sure that care is delivered the way that we want it delivered, the way that the client wants it delivered. And in all honesty, the app almost puts us in the home. I know we're physically not there, but it makes us there, at least as a resource to help the client or caregiver get what they need to solve their problem and move on, whether it's from additional services, supplies, logging tickets, driving back office functionality, picking up visits, filling out time documentation. The honest answer is, before, each one of those things that I just mentioned was interaction in the office. And now that hasn't happened. Now we're able to meet other needs, and those clients and caregivers are able to get their needs met without coming to one of our 50 office locations.
And how many sources of resource, or how many sources of technology, John, would you say you're using to create that person-centered care prior to being with Checked In Care? What were some of the technology you were using to try to provide that same person-centered care?
Oh gosh. Okay. Don't quote me on the number, everybody. Okay. So don't hit me on chats, but I would say that I had at least 10 different applications. Okay. And we use EVV, we use paychecks. We use ADP for paycheck stubs. We use a different solution for ETO calculations. We use a different one for daily pay. And so the honest answer, training is another one. I just rattled off 5 at the top of my head. And those are all technology solutions that, before Checked Into Care, had individual logins, individual things, and that's all gone now. They've basically made one centralized solution that we can onboard people to, and it stays there throughout their life cycle. And then when they're done, kind of like Amazon, there's no need for the Amazon app anymore once you're no longer buying from Amazon, but it makes it easier for us to administer services and not have to manage 5, 10 different solutions.
Yeah, technology can be our friend or our foe, that's for sure.
Depending on what day it is, right?
Depending on what day it is. So I want to talk about why is person-centered care the hot ticket item in every conference we're going to this year? And I'm sure all of you out there are seeing the same thing I saw. I just went to our Gentome a couple weeks ago, and everything that wasn't about AI was about person-centered care, but AI is person-centered care also. So just to kind of share a little bit of what I received in information from the Health Foundation, it's just comprised of 4 basic principles. Being able to afford people their dignity, their compassion, and their respect, which is honestly what Checked In Care is all about also. John will get into that. Offering coordinated care, support, or treatment, and then authorizing personal care, as well as just supporting them in their own strengths and their weaknesses. We all have those clients and staff and residents that everybody's in a different journey, but yet their journey is just as important as the others' journeys. So this leads me to a question. I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit, John, but John Bosen, if you can kind of answer for me, what were the challenges that you came across when you were trying to implement a person-centered care approach?
Sure. So I think the biggest one is resources. I'm 99% Medicaid. Okay. And so what that means is that my margins are controlled. Okay. And we have to do more with less every single day. One of the biggest challenges that I have is training my staff, my remote staff that we just talked about, these 5,000 caregivers. And you train them upon orientation, upon admission, or upon hire, but then they get out to the client's home, and the client wants bath done a different way, or meals made a different way, or dressed a different way. And we build individual trainings for how to give a bath 12 different ways, and the client can select one of the 12, and it might not be 12, it might be 10, but one of the multiple different bathings that most align the trainings, and then share that with the caregiver through the app. And so that's just one simple way that they can sharpen the pencil. They can also request additional services, or request supplies, or ask for a change in schedule. And so again, those were all interactions with a live person before, and they still are, but it allows them to do it at the middle of the night. And then that interaction happen when an office employee is there versus calling on call, and it creates a better mousetrap, a better experience for our clients and our caregivers, and makes us more efficient.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, I started in the industry in 2004, and basically it was, the only idea of person-centered care then was whether you got to decide if you wanted to live at home and what kind of care you wanted to get at home, whether you wanted to be in assisted living or you wanted to go to a nursing home. But beyond that, you had really little say in your care. And so what we're seeing now is a little bit different. We now are seeing access. And John Perkins, I'm going to bring you into this conversation. I was doing a little research for this webinar today, and I know you and I have talked about this. I discovered that in 2009, because of a reform on aged care, which is how they refer to senior living and senior care in Australia, they implemented consumer-directed care.
Yes.
But consumer-directed care today in Australia, as I'm understanding it, has evolved greatly beyond just a choice of where they live, like what we have had here in North America. Can you share with us how CDC has evolved since 2009 in Australia?
Yeah, and I think the word evolve is spot on, Melissa. So yes, consumer-directed care started in 2009 due to a range of changes. It is almost identical in terminologies to person-centered care that's defined by Centre of Medicare and Medicaid services. But that evolution is really the key component. It started by any areas that were government funded. The governments started setting rules in place for what consumer-directed or person-centered care looked like. And some of those rules that when organisations that were funded through government funds were audited, they had to prove that clients had choice, they had dignity of choice. That's where it started. It then went to, well, how do you actually prove these things? And then that led to being able to prove that the client or their nominated person, support person, enduring power of attorney, next of kin, or whichever support person they nominated, that either the patient or that family member would have access to care information, would have access to appointments, would have access to knowing who was coming to visit them would have access to details of the person that was coming to visit them, that they would have access to financial statements, where there was any funds that that person had to have access to, they would have access to that information. And that evolved over time, over the last 15 years, actually 16 years now. The government never gets these things right. And it's a combination of what is practical for the industry and what the government needs that has evolved over time. So where we are today is that it's all about dignity of choice for the patient or for the family member that's managing it on their behalf. And we're seeing the same tools that have been used in other industries like banking, where you can go online and access what you want, see your information, change your information, update your information online, is now demanded within those government-funded services. But that evolution has moved totally and at a much faster pace to privately paid services, because that's become the default expectation of those under privately paid services. And so where a lot of these funded requirements around consumer-directed care or person-centered care started in the home care environment, it's now become the default in independent living, assisted living, and long-term care, where access to information around your meals, access to information around transport, information around life enrichment activities, people's participation in life enrichment activities, that's just become the stock standard information that must be in the hands of your patient, resident, and their nominated family members. So it certainly has evolved. We've actually, as of the 1st of July this year, so in 3 weeks' time, there's the next evolution of those changes. But in summary, it is all about, dignity of choice, putting the power in the hands of the consumer, and that the consumer must be allowed to choose the services that they have, and they cannot be dictated to by the provider around, well, these are the services we have, you must choose from us. That is, if that's where people will lose their accreditation and will not be funded anymore. So certainly a very big evolution, but it's very much around giving the consumer, the patient, the person, the ability to choose, and you must be able to prove that that is happening with each and every one of your patients and residents.
I personally hope that North America goes in that same direction, because I think it's important to give it back to the hands of the consumer, and in our case, we want to say person. Is this why you started Checked In Care, John?
Yes, well, around the time consumer-directed care was happening, and we saw how in every other industry, people could access the information they wanted when they wanted 24/7. So I could go online, at 10:30 at night, access my banking information, change information. But in the care industry, despite where the government was pushing things, despite providers failing their accreditation requirements, the only way that people were still able to access their care resources was to call the call center Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And when you put into context, that usually when someone's calling, if it's either the client or even a family member, they're usually under a little bit of duress, wanting to know where things are at or know about the care of their loved one. So the need was obvious. So we brought into the care industry back in 2015 the same self-service capabilities that were existing in every other industry.
That's fantastic. And I love working for Checked In Care, because I started, for those of you in the assisted living world, I started ECP, an electronic health record, 20 some years ago. And this was where I saw ECP going towards, because I knew if I was creating an app, everybody else was, and their brother was going to start creating apps for everything. So John hopped in my mind and took it from me. So I'm going to blame you, John. No, I'm just kidding. So I just want to kind of share a little history on Checked In Care. As John said, we started over 10 years ago. We're a centralized care communication system that enables personalized self-service. This screen that you see here is just an example of what we can do, and John's going to get into more detail about that. But John Bosen, I'd like to ask you, since you've been with Checked In Care, how has this helped you? It's a twofold question for you. How has this helped you provide person-centered care, and how has it helped empower your staff to adapt to the person-centered care model?
Sure. And I hope I'm not too redundant here, but in all honesty, Checked Into Care has been an invaluable partner in our journey to deliver the PCC care that we're trying to deliver across all these miles of service area that we cover. It's enabled us to translate our principles of PCC into everyday practice and be partners in the home 24 hours a day if they want to be. And so it's not intrusive, but it's also there if you need it. It's like a life alert, and I'm hopefully you know what that is. One of the most impactful features for us has been the ability to deliver client-specific trainings. I think that by far is the biggest thing that allows the client to lean in with the caregiver individually, almost without us, and ask for them to hone in and sharpen their care delivery skills a little bit more to their specific needs. This targeted training aligns the caregiver perfectly with what they're experiencing or what they're looking for, and it's a wonderful solution. The second biggest thing by far would be documentation, allowing us. They solved a huge problem, and it's basically driving paperwork. I kind of mentioned it before, a quick Google before this. I Googled how many employees Barnes Hospital has here in St. Louis, and they have 10,000 employees for 1,266 patients, all in one room, all in one location. I have 5,000 with 150 employees, and of course, there's practitioners that we're excluding, so those numbers don't balance quite evenly. But I'm doing it with a lot less, and I think Checked In Care allows me to bridge that gap and provide that high level of service that our clients are looking for while delivering it remotely. And it also helps us with, like I was saying, driving that back office forms and paperwork and documenting the delivery of service in real time. I hope you see that too. They've made it, EVV, electronic visit verification, is required for the services that we deliver, and Checked Into Care built a link that allows them to clock in and clock out and document their time and their delivery through their solution. And then if they need additional supports or supplies or whatever else they need, they can seamlessly log a ticket and interact with our office when they need it. And so for me, the biggest thing that they've done is they bridged the gap between the front line and my back office coordination, and allowed us to serve the client and the caregiver when they need it and where they need it.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. I just want to share a little bit too about this slide here. What are all these names and all these pictures? So we were created in 2015 by John Perkins, and it's because of all of these folks that we exist. So these are all providers in Australia, and then John Bosen here in the North America that we work with, and we integrate over 49 systems currently, and we're growing at a rate of 1 to 2 systems a month. So these are some of our partners on the integration side, and these are our partners in care. This leads me to you, John Perkins. Just want to ask you, can you share with the folks on here some of the proven solutions for person-centered care, also known as CDC, in your parts of the world?
Yeah, certainly, Mel. So what we've seen consistently across our broad customer base is by giving your clients the choice and dignity of being able to access what they want when they want it, which is once again also a government requirement. So it's helping with a big one around driving compliance. But by putting the power in the hands of your clients, it is reducing consistently across all our provider partners inbound and outbound calls by 40%. So no longer your clients or your patients and their family members waiting for the call center Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. They're actually accessing the information when they want it and how they want it. So dramatically improving customer satisfaction as well. Putting them in control, which once again is a government requirement or any of the funded requirements around that. So the typical areas is once again reducing inbound and outbound calls by 40%, but also increasing, and the statistics across whether it's independent living, assisted living, home care, and long-term care is consistent. Staff are actually answering 7 times more inquiries than what they would normally. You think about the scenario today, as John mentioned, hospital versus home care environment. The care worker goes into the home, and all those questions that the patient has, it might be around an invoice or something around their clinical record or something around, how things are going to change over time. All those questions go to the care worker. And that care worker then says, oh, yeah, okay, let me get back to you. And they become the post office for everything and every inquiry that happens whilst they're visiting. So those inquiries now get all streamlined directly to finance. They're all managed and routed directly to the people that can handle them in real time. So dramatically improving those items. But it's amazing when clients actually feel that they have, the patients and families have that choice and that dignity of choice, and they're used to using this one interface to access what they want. Revenue substantially increases because they start buying additional products and services from your organisation. And some of those might be your standard services. So rather than domestic cleaning once a month, it becomes once a week. Rather than certain clinical services, they have an uplift. But they also start buying other products and services, discretionary spend through the platform. We've actually seen the little graph on the left-hand side shows the number of customer interactions per month. So you'll see from roughly July 23 through to July 24, we've seen a dramatic uplift in the use of the platform within Australia, showing that this has now really become a mainstream way for providers to interact with our platform. And that curve just continues to climb in terms of usage. So it is a proven, well-standard platform. These outcomes are consistent now across our provider partners.
Thanks, John. John Bosen, would you agree with John Perkins that this is the same results you're seeing with Advantage Home Care?
Sure. I can say I'm seeing a lot of the same trends, these positive trends at Advantage since we implemented Check Into Care. We've only been using the solution for about a year, but the early signs are very promising. I don't have a lot of specific figures in front of me, but I can confidently say that compliance alone has become drastically easier in my day-to-day operation. And that alone is a major win. Now, it solved a bunch of other problems too, but if it just made driving paperwork back and forth from the home to my office, if that were the only thing that did, it would still be a major win. The ability to guide documents more effectively and in real time has streamlined so many of our internal processes. We've also noticed a measurable increase in caregiver satisfaction, which we think has to do with how CIC empowers our staff by giving them the tools and the support they need to get the software, get the solutions they need when they need it. Alongside that, we're seeing a positive impact on client retention numbers. It's only been a year, but we've seen about a 5 to 6% increase in year-over-year retention since we implemented the solution. And another big one that John mentioned, and I hope that I can sharpen the pencil on it a little bit, is this drastic reduction in call volume. For those guys of you that do what I do, I think you would know that Fridays and Mondays are specifically super busy because we're covering for the weekend. And those days now are like normal days because Checked Into Care offers them the ability to get assistance 24 hours a day, not during normal office hours when their care team is available. So overall, they've reduced bottlenecks that were previously created by humans. And so while there's still a layer of support there, it's more accessible to them 24 hours a day. So overall, we're still in the early stages of all this, and we're still in the rollout, but Checked Into Care is already making a meaningful difference. And I would prefer, I know John doesn't want to hear this, but I didn't realize I was the only one in the States until just now. And I would prefer you guys not to get on it because I have a secret that nobody else has. So don't take that the wrong way. But I'm telling you not to get it, and I'm joking, of course.
I don't see that happening, John Bosen. I'm sorry. We've had a large amount of interest, but a lot of that's due to you. What other technology did you find out there? Because I don't want this to be solely about checked-in care. I want people to understand if there's other technology. Did you find anything else out there, John, that would be able to do that for you?
Great question. And what I would tell you guys is I assume we're all talking to people in the States here, but, take that Pepsi challenge. And I can tell you that I looked at several apps, and what I like about John's particularly was, number one, it integrated their ability to integrate. Number two, I've had lots of discussions with developers over the years, and they met me and met my needs. It was never, here's what we have. It's tell us what your needs are and tell us how we plug that gap. It's not here's what we offer. It's what do you need and how can I plug it? And of course they have some core benefits and core solutions, but they will customize those solutions to meet your needs. My experience with other vendors is you get more out of the box and less ability to customize and less ability to integrate. And I got both of those and more with these guys. Plus, I am a personality buyer, and I do like working with the people that I work with. And Melissa's okay, and John's okay too. And I'm just playing. They're both pretty cool, and I do like working with them and their entire team as well. And so that should go a long way. Great service, great rate, great performance for where I come from. It all aligns and sets them apart from their competition pretty seamlessly from my perspective.
Well, thank you. We like working with you too, John.
Oh, well, that's kind.
So checked-in care offers one seamless platform with 4 integrated components. So what we have is we have our customer web portal, which the customer is able to download the app, but if they don't want to use the app, they can also access it through the web portal. And then we have the Care Worker app, which is what you'll see with John Bosen's app. And then we have a self-service customer app. And John's going to be demonstrating that for you in just a minute here. Our admin portal is what we call our ticketing portal. And it does much more than that, but it is the flow stream for the tickets, the reporting, being able to upload all your information and being able to streamline who that goes to. We call that kind of a scope of work. We determine that with you. So with that being said, I want to turn this over, or I'm sorry, no, I have one more slide here. So I want to talk about how we're a multi-channel communication, and I'm going to tap into John Bosen a little bit on this when I'm done. So what that means is we keep the clients, the family, and the care teams connected in real time across multiple channels. So for those of you, like John's using roughly 10 different applications, we're pulling from those 10 different applications. It might be an EMR, it might be a CMS or CMR system, it might be your payroll. So that's the blue box on the left. And then with our app, we're able to give the communications piece where they have group chats. They can have chat groups that the customer creates in their app. There's SMS capabilities as well. So for those folks that are not using the internet, the web portal, the client web portal, or the app, they can also be notified by SMS or email. And then there's also phone capabilities through us. And that's available to your staff, the administration and the care workers, as well as the clients and family. And so, John, I just wanted to ask you how Checked-in Care's multi-channel communication has helped you further your mission of empowering your staff to provide person-centered care.
Sure, great. I think the biggest thing is triaging calls from my staff. Take this the wrong way, but not all issues are created equal. A staffing issue is a little different than a payroll issue. Both are important, but if I have one person answering the phone, they sometimes have to decide what's important and what's not. Of course, if the phone rings, we have to answer it and triage it in real time. What it's done is reduce those calls to only more relevant, more important calls, more emergency type calls, and the other calls, with the help of the ticketing system, allow us the other items. The other inquiries allow us to answer when we don't want to say get around to it because that seems lazy. I want to say answer in a more in an easier time for us to to answer by the appropriate people. And so a perfect analysis is before John and checked into care, we had about a 20% bounce rate, meaning that people would call and they would hang up as they were getting transferred to the right department. I'm a big believer in no phone trees and live after 5. We always say, so we like to answer that phone. And we say, Advantage Home Care, how can I help you? When they have a call, to John's point about billing, we'd have to put them on hold, find out what they need, put them on hold and transfer them to billing. Then billing would answer and find, the right person to talk to them. And that makes for a terrible client experience. What we learned is if John was the client and he logged a ticket, we can route that we can keep that chaos internal, route the ticket to the appropriate place, get the solution and solve their problem right the first time. We see less call volume, less repeat calls, and happier clients and caregivers. And there's a history of tickets that we can run to show clients and or caregivers that gobble up our resources more than others, for lack of a better way to say it.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
So with that, I'm now going to turn it over to John Perkins, and he can share Checked In Care with a quick demonstration, and then we'll go to questions afterwards, John. So I'm going to turn this over to John and let him do his magic.
Okay, I just need to, if someone can let me share my screen. And I'll, okay. All right, so what I'm now showing you, and I have the grand pleasure of doing a live demonstration, which is always challenging in itself. So what I'm first of all showing you here is our management portal, and I'll showing you our management portal to start with, because one of the questions that came through in the chat was, do we sync to your patient's clinical systems? And the answer is yes. So we'll sync to your patient's clinical system and we'll bring their information in real time. So this is our management portal. And in this case, I'm going to be demonstrating to you Adrian Uni. So I'll now go to one of my phones and I'll show you exactly this. Let me bring up my phone. And on this phone here, you'll see that each of our provider partners receive their own dedicated app. Now, in here, I'll move into one of the core applications. And in this case, Adrian Uni is the patient or the consumer or the client that is being provided care. Because I'm synced to your care system, we're representing a whole range of information, such as their care plan, care information, care statements through here. We're also syncing information such as invoices, statements that come through. We're also syncing the ability to be able to purchase additional products and services through here as well. And we're also syncing the ability to be able to request additional products and services. Oh, let me just. The beauty of a live demonstration. I might go to another phone. Just bear with me. Okay, I'll just, so I'm now also showing you what I can view when I go to my schedule. I can see all the appointments which we're pulling from your clinical system in one screen. So the ability to be able to view visits, request visits, make changes to visits. You'll see some visits here in yellow, and these are visits where we've already, a request has been made to change an appointment, and it's awaiting for a scheduling team. If I go into request a change to a visit, I can cancel a visit, change a visit, change it times to that, and that will then send that information directly to your scheduling team for a request to change that particular item. All these items are then tracked through what's called our request management system. But through request to service 2, I can also have visibility of a broad range of other products and services that your organisation offers. And this is where the ability for your patients or their family members to order additional products and services becomes available for the client in that particular situation. We also, through here, you can bring in a broad range of additional information. These tiles are totally customizable to your individual requirements as well. I'll just quickly show you what some other clients are doing. So this is one of our customers called Community Cares. And in their environment, they have the ability, their customers can view all of their care plans, their care agreements. They can view their budgets in real time. So this is where the government has provided a certain funding ability, and we can pull that information in real time. So they can see how much funds they got left. They can see where they can spend their funds. When a care worker is about to come in, they can see under the My Care exactly the background behind the care worker, the services that are supposed to be maintained at any point in time, and exactly what services need to be provided at any point in time when each of those care visits occurs, allowing both the staff member to sign off on those care visits, but also allowing the patient or their family members to view that information and confirm that that's been completed. Also, obviously, seeing various things, care statements, invoices, etc. We also have a broad range of customers that also, this is another customer called Self-Care, where the clients make payments directly through the system. So a number of payments are made through direct debit, so automated payments, but also the ability to have credit card payments enabled through here. So hopefully what you're seeing here is it's putting the patient or their nominated family member more in control of the care of the individual. In this particular view, I'm John. I'm the enduring power of attorney for Adrian. And because I'm the enduring power of attorney, I get to see all of his information, all of his care information, etc. But I also become the administrator for everything that happens in the apps, meaning that I can invite other family members to view the information. So therefore, taking the load off your staff for the administration of this platform in its entirety. I'll quickly go to, I'll change phones now, and I'll quickly bring up an alternate phone. Just bear with me. Okay. And what I'll quickly show you now is what we're providing to Advantage Home Care from the staff app. And I know, John, you mentioned that you're hoping to keep this as much a secret as possible. So hopefully,
Darn it.
So hopefully you don't mind me showing some of these features. But from a staff point of view, I might just rearrange this screen. Okay. So from a staff point of view, the issue that, as John mentioned from Advantage Home Care, was bringing everything that the care worker, and in this case, the care worker is Alex, into one easy to use screen. So we're integrated to a broad range of backend systems. And so when Alex needs to find his schedule, he simply goes in, looks at his schedule information. We're pulling this information from different systems. He can also bid for additional work through here. He can also look at all his troubled visits. If I go into his pay, I can then view specific, Alex can see his specific pay items, such as payroll support, pay schedule, direct pay information. So all the information that he needs to know specific to him around his pay records, rather than having to go into the pay system separately with a separate password, and then having to track through and try to find his information. It is surfaced up to him specifically for his requirements. Same thing from a compliance point of view. I go in the compliance tile. All of his training requirements are available through this tile here. So this will directly link into Advantage Home Care's training system, but surface up to Adrian his specific, or Alex, his specific training information. Has his digital badge in here, all of his various documents that he needs to access in one spot. EVV, same thing, easy to access, rather than having to remember the password into the other system. We simply, through single sign-on, we manage all of those logins into these broad range of backend systems that Advantage Home Care utilises. Now, when Alex goes in to see one of his patients or clients, what our system is doing now, it's now digging into the back end Advantage Home Care systems, pulling up those patients. In this case, he's going in to see Natalie, and now surfaces to Alex the information that Alex is supposed to see about Natalie. Now, if Alex is not supposed to see clinical information, he won't see clinical information. And the disadvantage of some clinical system apps, they'll surface all the information to a care worker, regardless of whether they're supposed to see that information or not. So hopefully from here, you can see that the ability to bring all that information into one single screen significantly improves the operational efficiency of staff, but also manages all the various communications to staff through one simple, easy to use screen. So Mel, I might hand back to your good self. Over to you, Melissa.
Thank you. Sorry about that. And I know we were going to open it up to questions. So Janet, if you have any questions that are producing on here, if you want to ask those now, we can do that.
Well, and we do. This is Joan, and I hope my sound is okay. I apologize. I had to put headsets on because it's storming behind me, and you would be hearing a lot of thunder and lightning. We did have one question I think you already addressed, but there was a second question that asked about how long does training take?
Yes, so I can address it. So we've got a very detailed onboarding process. We have a whole range of online templates, online videos, online training information. The typical training process we run is a 4-hour training session for the core business owner administrator of the platform. It is a train the trainer type of requirement. So we train a person at each of your regions, and then they can provide training to others. However, what we typically find is that one person is trained up in the use of the platform, and then all the other tools are available through what's called our management portal. And if I just very quickly, I'll just share my screen again, and you'll see going back to our management portal here. In our management portal, all the training materials that we provide, all the online information is available both through the app, but also if I hit that question mark at the top of the screen, and I wish to know anything about the operation of the platform. So once again, I've been trained, or a new staff member comes in and I want to know how to log a post or create some information. I simply search for the information, and then this will come up with all the relevant training materials, videos, and information around that platform. So we have a full online suite library that is fully accessible both through when we do the training, which once again is a 4-hour training session, plus that information that you're trained on remains online for easy access.
Thank you. I think that should have answered the question. And we have another question. What app adaptations or assistance is available for clients with low vision or other physical impairments that would make using the app easier? Great question.
Great question, yes. And that is the two problems we helped solve when we started Checked in Care and bring those self-service capabilities to the senior industry was, one, accessing back-end systems that were very hard to access. So I've had 30 years in the care industry, in the disability industry, and the second component was the accessibility, so the user interface for the target market being seniors and disabilities. And you'll see that the icons are very large, but each of the icons is totally customizable to the role of the individual. So you can have different looks and feels, different contrast levels, etc. We also have, for people that are visually impaired, we have what we integrate to your phone systems, and we actually have the ability for voice or text to voice. So for the system to actually read back, but also for voice to text conversion as well, which allows you to talk to the app and say, show me my schedule. So those sort of AI tools are available and are constantly being improved as well.
Cool. And that's the end of our questions, unless someone has another one, that they want to pop in the chat or put in the Q&A. I think, wow, I'm sending this thunder your way, John.
Thanks.
And it's rumbling right now. I think one of the things that I really appreciated as I've listened to you, I think Center for Innovation and the team has so enjoyed the partnerships that we have with sponsors and vendors, and to be able to share the passion for person-centered care, for person-directed care, both making life better for the elders that we serve or the clients that we serve, as well as our staff, our team members, and having the ability to have those conversations to, share with you, what is it that we need? And for you're the innovators, to tell us what are the things that are possible for us. So it's wonderful to hear. This is a great, this has been a great example of how partnering together we can really make this a better place for everyone that lives and works in aging services.
Joan, I saw there's another question on there too.
I got it. Sorry.
That's okay. I just thought since we had a couple extra minutes, we
there
might
you
be able
go.
to address
So
it.
how is training provided for the caregivers? Can it be personalized?
Yes, so we have a whole range of standard templated training materials, both in PowerPoint slides, videos, online materials. And what actually happens is, for each of our provider partners, we focus on the core business outcome they wish to achieve, which might be reduction in calls, increase in revenue, increase in compliance, or a combination. And then what tiles are surfaced to that individual organisation are customised for those business outcomes. That then leads to customised training and personalised training for each of their officers, which then leads to personalised training for the caregivers. So we have a whole broad range of templates that are customised for each time training's given, and then that training that is taken is then added to the library of information. So we have once again a broad range of training options and materials, which allows us to customize that for the trainer. And then typically what happens is that the trainer then has the ability to customize it further for the caregivers.
Beautiful.
One thing I would say is that, remember, we had 10 apps. And so you're supporting 9 less in my world. And so my IT department and my support staff couldn't be happier that we are down to 1. And so while there's always training, and there's always people like my dear old mother who it's her birthday, so I can't believe John's going to make me badmouth my mother on her birthday. She's a nurse and has a little bit of a technology gap. Don't say I told her, but I told you that. But in all honesty, even she was able to download the app and install it and do it pretty effectively. I think my advice would be make the buttons big and don't make it do a lot of stuff. To John's point, make it solve your core problems, their core problems, and you can always build on it. But if you do it right, it's not going to be hard to implement and train. They're gonna can't wait to use it.
We're very big believers, and we are very persistent in this regard, where less is more when you get started. So I've only shown you today in the demonstration about 25% of the overall functionality, but pick the key business item you need to solve. And once again, for us, our vision is a world where all people live their best lives with choice and dignity. So we're very big around helping to put in the hands of your patients and the family members the ability to manage and give them the choice what they do, which therefore by default covers all of the challenges with person-centered care. And it really is. And what we're doing is not groundbreaking. It's been in every other industry for more than a decade, but we have brought that to the care sector. And it's through our 30 years in the care sector that we understand the consent requirements, we understand the usability requirements, we understand that care workers, they haven't, their technology use has typically been low. So the way that training needs to occur, the way that people are educated, the materials that constantly provided to people are different to what they are in other industries. So we're very proud of the fact that we've brought those same capabilities to the care industry, but it's been customised specifically for the care industry. Our technology is not used outside of the care industry, so it's, as you'd understand it, all the features, all the capabilities are very much specialised to what we do in this space, which once again, it's all driving our own vision of a world where all people live their best lives with choice and dignity.
And what a wonderful way to kind of sum things up for our webinar today. So I would like to thank Melissa and Aussie John and American John for being here with us today, and showing us the possibilities, and not just the possibilities, but the reality that truly is there and available for us today as we move forward. So I would like to just share a few things. If Janet, if you'll pop on the slides. The first one is, of course, this is a pre-conference webinar, and it's the pre-conference is the conference is coming, Mobilize the Movement, August 11th through 14th, right here in St. Louis, Missouri. And we certainly hope that you can join us. Obviously, technology is something you're interested in, and I'll just share a little bit. There is a pre-conference session, Age Tech Summit and Showcase, that actually the team here is going to be a part of, and it features age tech companies showcasing how their solutions are seeking to transform elder care. And it's a super interactive session, so should be pretty exciting. And then during the conference itself, one of the general sessions is called What the Tech is Going On. And if you were with us last year, you may say, well, wait a minute, you had that session last year. Well, we did, but you know what the tech is going on is still happening, and there's all new information. So again, we'll have an expert of panels in dynamic conversations exploring innovations like AI and how they can enhance care and support through person-directed living. And then I just want to share that there's also a great post-conference session that's a small house summit. So a little bit more than just the typical site visits that we have been known for with our conferences, and I'll let you check that one out. I do want to mention the next, we do have more of our pre-conference webinar series. There are 5 in all. The first one is already, the recording's already up there on our conference agenda. If you go to the conference website, on the CFI website, you'll find it. And obviously you've got today's, and the recording will be up there within about 24 hours. And then we have 3 more coming up, 1 more in June and 2 more in July. So take a look at what those are. The next one coming up is actually Canadian long-term care reinvention, the small house model at St. Clair O'Connor. And St. Clair O'Connor is a community, an intergenerational community in Toronto, who are adopting the small house model. And what they'll be sharing is how through this model, they've been able to lessen the social stigma around long-term care, affordable housing, and seniors aging in place. And I want to share one other thing with you, and this is around the conference as well, but we're so proud of this. CFI would like to celebrate, we know one of the things we have to do is celebrate successes, and we need to honor those leaders in our field. And so these 2 awards are there to do just that, but we need your help because you're the ones that know who those change makers are, those individuals who are leading the way through innovation and wise leadership. And our second award is one that is so very special to the team at CFI, and honestly to everyone who had the opportunity over the years to get to know and couldn't help but love our dear colleague Alex Spanko, who passed away this year, but was absolutely the epitome of a young up-and-coming leader who even in a short time made such a difference. And we know that there are other Alexes out there who are making a difference every day in communities, and we would like to honor them. So please consider, if you know someone for either the Changemaker Award or the Alex Spanko Memorial Award, to please submit an application. The deadline has been extended to June 16th. And I see that Janet has put a link on the chat. Excuse me, and we'll also be sure to include that link in the post-webinar information that goes out to everyone. So that's that one. And then don't forget to check out the latest of the Elevate Elder Care podcast. There's a new one every week. Susan Ryan, our CEO, interviews some absolutely phenomenal people on these podcasts, and every one of them is just a wealth of knowledge and information and inspiration for all of us. The last piece I have to say is the business side, and that is those of you who are need CEs, they are available for nursing home administrators. You've already accomplished the first thing. You've attended the webinar. There will be a survey that will pop up when you sign out of the webinar. Be sure you complete that. If you have an NAB number, be sure to give that to us, and we can report your hours directly to NAB, but we'll also be sending out an individual certificate to each person. Again, the recording of today will be available, and the handouts are already up on the agenda on the conference website. So that's all I have to say, other than thank you so very much to Melissa and John and John, and to all of you for joining us. We know how incredibly valuable your time is, and we appreciate your spending it with us. We would love to see you all in St. Louis. I promise we'll get the rain over with before you come. So please have a wonderful rest of the day, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you, Joan. Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.